Blessed to be part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Our great friend Dave Petzo joining us, the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial, and, a man of the world. Good to have you with us, sir.
It's great to be here, Kevin.
You know, you're a big technology guy, right?
I'm not a big technology guy.
No,
I like technology. Does that make me a big... No.
You are a big technology guy. Well, maybe not someone out of Silicon Valley. You're always... Look, I listen to your show. I study you.
Okay, all right.
I know what's going on here, at least until you correct me. But you like technology. You like the iPhones. You're saying that, we're going to have automated this, autonomous that, right? So you're a big technology guy.
Okay.
Bigger than I am.
Okay, there you go.
Bigger than I am.
All right.
So I'm watching this show last night called Billions. You ever heard of it?
I have. You've highly recommended that.
Right. Have you watched it yet?
No, I watched two shows.
Right. Because you're a fiscal conservative and you don't want to pay for the showtime.
That's right. That's correct.
Yeah. So at Billions last night, they're getting ready to make a big trade, okay? So all of a sudden, they're getting ready to make a big trade. All of a sudden, this oil tanker's going to blow. They've got the inside knowledge, so they're going to get out of it right away. And they get hacked.
Oh, boy.
And everything is taken down.
Uh-huh.
Now, for people that have been listening to this program and have heard or maybe read a little bit about what happened to us here, it has happened where all of a sudden, boom, your computers don't work and you're trying your very best. And there's really nothing you can do. And people are yelling at the IT people and they're yelling at us and all these sorts of things. There's nothing you can do. Mm-hmm. So are we too dependent on technology when all of a sudden, everything is run by computers? No one remembers their passwords.
Yeah. Yes. I think so, Kevin. We are very dependent. It's interesting. There's books being written. My lady just read a book about the end of not the end of civilization. Well, I guess it would be the end of civilization as we know it because of the computer glitch. Not because quite the Terminator, but computer glitch, and that nobody could do anything, and the highest prized skills were not, or anything was not gold. It was skills to fix things, be able to make things operate. But you think about that, from being able to make and distribute medicines, to obviously communications of any kind, and you take all that away, and it would be quite a sight to see, and I think it would be very, very damaging.
Sure, and during the Billions last night, they actually had people, the young people that you're such a fan of, they didn't know how to call in a trade because they've never done it before.
Right. Yeah, it would be. You're right. And people, I think the older you are, the more capable of actually doing something you probably are. That's not 100% true, but it is certainly mostly true that the younger you are now, you have no concept of how to change your spark plugs, or do cars even have spark plugs anymore? I don't know.
Depends on the type of car. Now, some type of fancy type of car that you have, like Kit from Knight Rider, something of that nature. I'm sure they don't have spark plugs, but the rest of us,
how do they start?
Most of us, we're carburetor kind of people.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
That's the makeup of this show. We're carburetors in a carburetor.
It's the old-fashioned kind.
Yeah. So I was just wondering about that, where you have people sitting back and thinking to themselves, well, I've just never done that before. The idea of using a phone, and so they're how they got away from it was they got flip phones because they weren't tied into the network.
Okay.
So they started using the cell plans to physically call people, which is what was mainstream 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah, well, 10 years ago, flip phones were cool.
Sure, but not only flip phones, but the idea of using verbal communication.
Oh, yes.
As opposed to the computers.
No, I was talking to somebody over the weekend, and it was just the same thing. It was kind of like, well, I never have conversations. I text. Like, how's that good?
We know how much Dave Petzo loves the texting, by the way.
Well, and you texted me this morning, and guess what? It's not here.
Well,
but if you'd have called me,
right,
then that would have been my brain not there if I don't remember you calling me.
Sure, but it was impossible for me to call you considering
because you were actually doing something.
Well, that's what they call it, doing something. Not officially known what it is. So let's talk a little bit about some of the bigger stories in business here on KIDO Talk Radio. Anything that you have for us before we get to our usual
the
potpourri of fun
surprises
and
that I have no idea. Right, the gotchas, the gotchas are coming, so I get to take it right now. Okay, first of all, jobs report was unbelievable. Kevin, again, let me just reiterate what this is and what this that we've never seen this before, so we can all be just absolutely outraged because the president of the United States is Donald Trump. But the reality is we are dealing with record low unemployment. Record low, meaning of all time, unemployment among minorities and women, both. I know he's a racist, misogynist guy, but he also somehow, by some weirdness, is presiding over the lowest unemployment rate in those markets ever. I mean, this is an amazing jobs report that came out. The weakness earlier in the year seems to have dissipated. The economic data has been unreal. ISM, which is manufacturing data, is back to record highs. The stock market is within 2% of its all-time highs as well. So we've had a tremendous recovery here in 2019. That's kind of the top of the news. If you want some negative stuff, gas prices are rising, but I'm going to put a pretty bow on that and say, look, this is really low compared to where we were, and oil prices are rising, which is good for the oil industry in our country, as if you're ready for this, we are the number one energy country in the world.
Sure, but on the other hand, so why are we paying more for oil then?
Actually, we've kept it down because
the prices are going up.
Well, they are going up from these record lows.
50 record lows was like 3 or 4 years ago, Dave. I mean,
no, that was 100. It was 140 on its way to 200, according to the geniuses at Goldman Sachs, et cetera. I'm
just saying. Look, I'm not a genius. I'm not someone that is a highfalutin sort of person. I just, I'm like Pat from Middleton. I see my gas prices go up. I know it's going to cost me more to mow my lawn.
That's right.
So how can that be good for me if we're producing, we're the Saudi Arabia now of everything? Why aren't they taking care of the American consumer?
Well, they are to a degree.
They're taking care of us.
Yeah. And why I'm happy about it is because we can continue to expand our infrastructure in this country for energy and continue to export as much natural gas. One of the things that we miss, Kevin, is not just the gasoline prices, but natural gas, which has been a huge draw for manufacturing to the United States, is at the world's lowest prices at only $3 an MCF. It's been as high as in the teens, even in the summer months in Europe. So it is a very, very big deal that we have so much abundant natural gas. We take for granted. We walk over and go, I'm a little chilly, and we turn the dial, and for pennies, we warm up our entire house. It's crazy how, well, if you will, how we take for granted this amazing thing, and that's part of the whole energy pipeline. But to answer your question more specifically, our cars are much more fuel efficient. Obviously, many of them don't even use gasoline, so it is quite a big overall. For Kevin Miller, driving your tank, it's a big deal.
Wait a minute, but you're in fact Dave Petzo with us, and by the way, we encourage phone calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We really encourage the phone calls on this because you're saying that the high cost of gas is good for all of us. Now, I drive a Forester. I drive a 13 or 12-year-old Camry. I'm not one of these folks with the big cars. If they have the big cars, they can afford to do it. But I think that it's an idea of a lot of people that the oil companies are once again sticking it to us because all we've heard about is we're producing this mass amount of energy, we're exporting energy. So when OPEC makes a cut, why in the world should it impact us since we have more oil than we know what to do with? Why don't we take care of the Americans and put those prices back to where they should be, like $2 a gallon, $1.50 a gallon? You talk about roaring the economy. That's one thing it would do. Now, again, the oil companies that are subsidized by us great taxpayers, well, they'd have to learn to live with less.
Well, number one, it is. You're right. The first of all, the politicians are the main reason why the gas prices are up, as you well know, Kevin. I was in Bend, Oregon this past weekend. What
were you doing in Bend? Some type of secret business deal again?
Yeah, well, this is where I meet Buffett. Yeah, that's where I meet Buffett in
Bend,
Bend, Oregon. Yeah. Yeah, I was walking in the rain. How's that? Yeah, it was
That must be code for something, folks.
Right. So anyway, I was over there, and gas prices, as soon as you hit the border here in Ontario, skyrocket. They're like $3.19 a gallon, I think it was. I saw at the truck stop as you turn off in Ontario. So anyway, it's way over $3, and that is because in Oregon you have a much larger gas tax than you do in Idaho. So the politicians are responsible for most of this increase anyway. And the second part is that when you have if I'm hearing you right, what you're saying is that you think that we should have price controls, and that the government should get involved here and tell people if you create a barrel of oil, you have to sell it at a certain price only to Americans, not a global market. Because
what country is this?
So you think that we should have to sell
oil
no matter what the price level is?
The president talks about making America great again. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, if you're producing more oil here,
and
you should put it on the market, which would lower prices.
Which they do.
Well, not now.
Yeah.
Prices are going up. You can't have it both ways.
It's a global market, Kevin.
Well, not
the
in
Saudis
Idaho.
and all the others are trying to cut back.
I don't care about the Saudis. You know who I care about? I care about people here in Idaho. I care about the Treasure Valley. I don't care about
You don't care about anybody else?
They don't care about us.
They
Do
don't.
they care about Dave Petzo? You know who cares about Dave Petzo? I care about Dave Petzo.
Well, that's nice of you. Apparently, I don't.
Now, I would never say that, Dave Petzo, but I'll agree with you on that. Anyway, we'll talk more about this. Plus, Boeing continuing to have problems.
Yeah.
Are you going to be flying anymore?
Not on a MAX.
By the way, a lot of people, I think, are calling in to have a little talk with you.
Oh, they are.
That'll
Tell
be
me
good.
about how the oil companies are
bad.
Are bad.
Dave Petzo, defender of big oil, next.
I thought we were going to a commercial. We're not.
Well, we're going to go to a commercial, but I want to hear from you. Do you buy what Dave Petzo's saying? Because that's what everybody else is saying. What, the headphones don't work?
No, I got it.
Okay.
That was a thumbs up.
Just checking. More coming up next, KIDO Talk Radio. And coming up, Amazon clearing the path for Alexa's use as a health service. Is that a good idea? We'll ask Dave Petzo those stories and more, but we are talking about gasoline. You say it's good that the prices are going up.
I think it's good for our industry. I'm not saying it's good overall that they're going up, but the fact of the matter is they're down lower than they would be normally because they are here in Idaho, we're one of the lowest in the nation. That's just the reverse of what it's been.
Until we become the highest.
Until we become high.
You're a big fan of technology, right? That seems to be the theme today.
Yeah, okay.
So you're telling me, and look, I'm a black
Well, it is a
helicopters
technology.
guy. Technology
did give us all of this fracking. It's
right.
What's made America the number one energy.
So you're
producer.
telling me that technology couldn't develop a car that would run on natural gas? Technology.
No.
If the big companies really wanted to, they get rid of this. Oh, we have to spike the price of gas because the summer blend is more expensive than the winter blend. Oh no, the winter blend is more expensive. I mean, it's like this daylight savings time thing. You would think in the year 2019 we'd have a solution to this stuff.
Well, we do partly.
If you believe in technology,
I do believe in technology.
if you
It's
believe in
allowed those cars to
conspiracies
go-
like me,
right? If that's right, if you're a tinfoil hat guy, we got it.
I think the tinfoil hat people are with. I mean, you're telling me that we can't come up with a solution for winter and summer blend? Well, it's going to be more expensive. I'm sorry, we're good oil companies. We got to pass it on to y'all, everybody.
Once again, the geniuses in the various areas, like Seattle, is in particularly off the charts in Washington State. They have completely lost their mind. Gas is very, very high there, and apparently in Seattle, you have all these little communities that decide they pass their own laws. So you have multiple blends that can only be like in Bellingham or Bellevue or Seattle, all have different blends. It's really crazy. So it makes gasoline very, very expensive there. And also the gas taxes that are layered on in Washington State are much higher than Idaho. So we do have state-to-state differences
I'm not
with
talking
your blends.
about Washington State. I'm talking about Idaho. I'm talking about the folks. You notice he keeps trying to switch it to the Saudis last section, the Washingtonians, the Oregonians this section.
Well, it is what sets prices, Kevin. It is a global commodity, So however much is produced in the world oil-wise, which is the base of all of it, from there the politicians get involved, and it does become very expensive. And further, if you really want to do something...
It doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be the politicians?
Doesn't have to be very expensive. Instead of selling that oil and gas everywhere else... Let's keep it here in the homeland.
So,
let's get
my
gas
free
down
market buddy, you think you should be forcing these companies to sell below market prices?
Well, there is no free market in the oil business. If you and I wanted to start an oil company, we couldn't do that.
Yes, we could.
There'd be so many red flags and so many people getting in our way.
Well, that's true of every business.
Well, not
it's
in
tough.
every
That's part of
business.
getting a business up in the air.
If I wanted to start Kevin Miller Real Estate Company, I could start that tomorrow. They
Real
wouldn't
estate's
care.
a fairly easy one. You're right.
That's a free
How
market.
about a restaurant?
That's a free market. Well, I could start a restaurant easier than I could start an oil company.
Well, that would most certainly be true.
If I tried Kevin Miller Oil Company, they'd Gulf and Phillips and all those people would wipe me out. Poor little Kevin Miller.
Just show up with their armies?
They would. Barb from Sunny Slope, you're on with Dave Petso, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Hi there. It's a little bit off topic here, but...
No,
it is a Dave Petso
wait a
Thank
minute,
you,
wait a
Barb.
minute.
Thank you.
Wait a
Any
minute.
topic's better than this one.
What is this?
You're
Calling it
welcome,
off
Dave.
topic. You know better than that, Barb.
I do know better than that, but I needed to grab Dave Petso. I'm getting calls from a global GSI exchange saying that I should be putting some of my money into gold. And I'm living on my retirement right now. Is this reasonable? Is this...
Oh,
they
Dave Petso
crazy?
loves gold.
Yeah. They're going to keep selling gold. Gold is a fear product. It's always been sold based on fear. The world is coming in. We're going to have hyperinflation. The reality is, I'll give you two things. When I started in this industry in 1980, yes, that dates me. Gold was at $800 an ounce, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average was at 800. Okay. Today, we're at 26,000 plus on the Dow. We're at 1,300 on gold. So,
Right?
and it produces nothing. So we have like no return. What is that? 1%, 0.9%, or whatever in the last 30 years, versus thousands of percent. So it's a big difference in performance, and the reason why is because the economy is dynamic. Corporations are dynamic. Things change, and so we have this thing called creative destruction. And when we're talking about the Dow or the S&P, you're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Companies that like Google and Amazon and Apple come up. They weren't here in 1980. Apple was, but it was a dead company. These are amazing changes in what was going on at the time, where predominantly oil companies were the biggest part of our industry. And now they're a very small part of our industry, to go back to Kevin's topic earlier. So this kind of dynamism allows everything to change and to keep growing. And that's why the corporations have done so well. So no, avoid gold. Gold produces nothing, absolutely nothing. It looks pretty on a ring, it looks great in jewelry, and it is not an economic anything. It produces no dividend, no income. It just sits there.
Well,
and
Glenn Beck
it's
likes
a
gold.
nice brick. Well, and Glenn Beck has really not done very well with gold.
He's got a lot of gold. All right, Barb. Thank you.
Thanks, Barb.
Okay. Thank you.
Traffic and weather together. And Kevin Miller in the morning here. Continuing on, talking a little bit about the home business. You think that'd be a good business for you to get into, Kevin Miller Real Estate Company?
I hear it's a top of the line.
I got the name of the company and everything that
Listen,
I
I
would
got $100 in my pocket.
You'd be an investor?
Can I buy a share? Yeah.
Yes, you could call me the Home King.
The Home King. I like it.
You ever watch? Well, no, you don't, but because you're always out like hiking, fishing. There's my newest hero is a guy named Jan Levon.
Okay.
Jan Levon. You ever heard of polka?
You mean the music?
Polka
music? Yeah.
So he was this guy in Pennsylvania. He
I'm bored already. I mean, isn't polka music like that really boring thing?
Now, you notice when you ever say that I'm grouchy and stuff, you always correct me. Now, here I am trying to share part of my life and to be warm and open, and I'm a victim here of being bullied by Dave Petso. Everybody.
You're right. I am sorry about that. I didn't know you were a polka music fan.
I just choose to be a victim. So basically, he did this Ponzi scheme where he would have people investing in him.
Oh, okay.
Jan Levon Enterprises. You do this, you do that. We go here, we go there. Anyway, Netflix did a documentary on him. A couple other people did some stuff, and then Jack Black did a a docudrama on him where he played Jan Levon, the Polka King.
Huh.
And it was always about you invest in Jan Levon and blah, blah, blah. And none of it was licensed. My point being, it's a very entertaining movie.
Okay, good.
Mrs. Miller does not care for the Polka King, but I watch it again and again. But we go back to the importance of, as Barb was pointing out, people calling her on the phone, wanting her money, a lot of schemes going on out there, whether we're talking about financial planning, whether we're talking about gold, whether we're talking about retirement. Any advice that you can give folks, and I know you do that at the Petso Center, I know you do that at Money Matters, but just overall to protect, for people. Well, he sounded nice on the phone.
Right, exactly. And number one, I just wouldn't answer the phone, and particularly troubling our senior citizens. It's become a very big thing. Yeah, how many calls do you get per day from numbers you don't know? So none of us answer anymore, right? Because we're tired of the machines and the solicitors and all that stuff. But the scams, they're very, very good at it and painting a picture and if in the right time to be bullying people into making a bad decision. So the answer is don't dialogue with them. Number one, do not dialogue with them. And if you have questions, there's plenty of really good outlets out there. And always, I think common sense is not very common, and I get that. But we all have some common sense where we just know that this doesn't sound right. And at the very least, why don't you check it out? Not check them out, not look at their literature. Go get another opinion. Go ask somebody you know, a friend of yours or what have you, to try to avoid that. And in some common sense. I mean, we have some things out there, as you well know, Kevin, I rail all the time about this idea that you get to participate in the market with no downside risk, or we ought to buy gold and silver and all these things, and all the ideas that you somehow can have stock market returns without any risk or any downside volatility. We all know that's not true, but we accept that maybe it is because we are so fearful or not knowledgeable in what we're dealing with. Go get help.
Dave Petso, the Petso Center. Always appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
Kevin, appreciate you. And thanks again for the guiding light you are.
Especially on fuel.
Yeah, and the love you have for this area.
We appreciate you, Dave Petso, the Petso Center, Petso Financial. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. KIDO Talk Radio. We are honored to have the great Kyle Petty joining us now. Mr. Petty, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Idaho, sir.
Hey, thanks for having us, man. I appreciate it.
Well, we talk about your family and the legacy of your father, your son, and what you do week in and week out on radio and national television. You've got a very special project going on that will touch so many folks. Can you share that with us today, sir?
Yes, we do. We do a motorcycle ride every year. And I know that sounds crazy, but we've been doing this is our 25th anniversary. And this is the largest one we've ever done. We've raised, during the previous 24 years, we've raised about $18.5, almost $19 million that we've given to different children's hospitals. And then when my oldest son, as you mentioned, Adam, when he was killed in 2000 in a racing accident, we started a camp for children with chronic and life-threatening illnesses. It's called Victory Junction. It's in North Carolina. We see kids from all over the United States, totally free of charge. I always have to throw that in because I want people to know, send your kids, please. We'll take care of them. We'll get them to camp. We'll get them home, I promise. But the charity ride is coming through your area. We're coming through, I think the first day is May 3rd, and we're staying in Ontario, Oregon, and then we're coming through Bliss, Idaho. We're coming through going to stop there about 11 o'clock, probably be there about an hour and a half for a fuel stop. My dad, Richard Petty, will be with us. Herschel Walker, George Rogers, 2 Heisman Trophy winners. Harry Gant, who used to drive a race car, Donnie Allison, who used to drive, David Reagan, who drives now. So we'll have some celebrities. So if people want to talk racing or talk football, we just invite them to come out to the stinker there at the Bliss Country Store and say hello to us.
Kyle Petty joining us, KIDO Talk Radio. Kyle, we can talk about everything else, but obviously this charity ride, this motorcycle ride across the country, that's got to be how do you describe it, sir?
Chaos on wheels. That's chaos on wheels is how I describe it. And not really. I'm going to tell you, man, it is incredibly organized. Here's the way I describe it, honestly. We'll have 150 bikes this year. This is the most we've ever had. We decided to allow a few more this year because it was our 25th. and almost everyone on this ride has been on this ride before. There's only a few people that have not. So it's like a family reunion. People that have been on the ride in the past have come back to be a part of the 25th. But the special part about it is the people that are on this ride. And they are so caring, so giving. They give up a week and a half of their time. And yeah, they get to ride motorcycles. They get to see the country. But at the same time, they know they're sending kids to camp. They know they're changing lives. The other special part of this ride is when we stop at places like Bliss, Idaho, the fans that come out and say hello and say, hey, man, this is really cool. Thank you guys for doing this. We know you're changing kids' lives. That little bit of encouragement from fans that come out along the way. So it is a special event. Honestly, it is a I told somebody one day it's like doing a telethon to raise money for camp. We just do it on motorcycles, and we do it 9 days in a row.
Well, you start in Seattle and you end in Key Largo. I don't know how you do it, brother.
You know what? I told somebody, I said, that's the easy part. I used to just sit in a race car and ride around in circles everywhere. I started in the same place and ended in the same place. Man, you want to talk about boring. That's crazy. At least I get to see the country now. That's the best part. But you know what? This is the first time we've ever gone this far. This is almost 3,700 miles. It's corner to corner. So it's going to be. We are really, really, really excited about this ride. This may be the last great ride for us. To be honest with you, we may go back to shorter rides after this. We're all getting a little older, so maybe that's what we have to do.
And by the way, you can check out Kyle Petty Charity Ride Across America, the schedule and the pit stops at their Facebook page. Kyle, finally, remembering your great son Adam and Victory Junction and what it means to help children based on that tragedy, sir.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's funny. When Adam started, he was killed when he was 19. But when he started, we were fortunate to be with Sprint. And Sprint had a program where they were connecting hospitals all across the country, where a child in California could talk to a child in North Carolina over a network. And it was only in the hospitals. The kids in the hospitals could talk to each other. You couldn't go home and talk to somebody. You had to be there. And, we started visiting hospitals when Adam was young. And helping families pay their bills. That's part of what the charity ride was. And, one day Adam said, hey, we went to a camp like this. Why don't we just build a camp? And we started to look at it. And when his accident happened, then that was the logical progression for us. And this is our 15th anniversary for camp. Adam's been gone. He was killed in 2000. So in May, it'll be 19 years. But we've seen in the 15 years that camp has been open, we've seen over 30,000 kids have come through the gates of camp. And I tell people all the time, when I watch a kid leave and he's got Adam's smile on his face, I know he's happy, and I know Adam's still here with us in some way, shape, or form. So it's part of the healing process, and it's still going on 19 years later.
And you and Adam and the entire Petty family making a difference, sir. We so appreciate you joining us here in Idaho. Stay safe. And Kyle, one more time, if people would love to help with the ride or Victory Junction, what can they do, sir?
Yeah, you can follow us at KP Charity Ride on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Go to our website to find out more about the ride at KylePettyCharityRide.com, or go to Victory Junction. If you know a child in your area that can benefit from a camp like this, please go to VictoryJunction.org and look at what we have to offer, and we'll help you get there. I promise, man. Because the more kids we see, the better off this world will be.
Kyle, thank you for making a difference, brother.
Thank you, man. Take care. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. The great Kyle Petty joining us this morning on KIDO Talk Radio. And here you have a young man whose father was the king, still is the king. And whether you're a NASCAR fan or not, traveling across the country to raise money, to benefit folks, to make a difference. The Kyle Petty Charity Ride, the Victory Junction for the kids. Adam, I remember covering that race. Covering it, I was listening to the race as it happened. I believe it was in New Hampshire. Young Adam Petty died. Victory Junction was born. And you have the Petty family. You have so many people giving back and making a big difference. So God bless Kyle Petty and everyone here in the Treasure Valley that continues to make a difference. Turning our attention to the political world, 2018 Georgia Democratic gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams said that the Georgia fetal heartbeat bill that would ban abortions as soon as a doctor can detect a fetal heartbeat was evil. Now, we've earlier today, we had David Ripley on from Idaho Chooses Life. We were going back and forth on the issue of abortion here in Idaho, Planned Parenthood, that sort of thing. And in other states, whether it's Utah or Georgia or Ohio, you have these heartbeat bills that are going up, and they're going to put Roberts, they're going to put Kavanaugh on the line and say, look, are you pro-life or not? When you hear a heartbeat, is that the end of the line for the abortion industry? Stacey Abrams, who many people claim she will run for the presidency, even though she lost in Georgia, had this to say.
Absolutely. With a fair election system, Georgia's absolutely winnable. And despite the challenges we faced, we came closer than you should, given the challenges that were put in place and the barriers put in place for voting. It was an incredibly narrow race, less than 1.5%. And that's with a statewide race where the governor is the top of the ticket.
Here's the other thing about Stacey Abrams. She had Oprah. She had the money. She had people saying the changing Georgia demographics. And she continues, just like the devious little libs, when they lose, they don't say, I lost, as the Republicans do, as George H.W. Bush did. You know what they say? They blame the system. They blame the man. They blame everybody else. It's a corrupt system. She still hasn't gotten it that she lost, that she's a loser. She makes all these unsubstantiated allegations. It continues.
The presidential candidate at the top of the ticket, investing in Georgia and doing the work, we absolutely can carry Georgia. And with a strong Senate candidate, we will win. No question.
So and I know you are obviously a booster of Georgia, of your state, but there are a lot of people who are saying the answer to what Brian Kemp did, the governor there, did in terms of being the Secretary of State and restricting votes, basically being the referee as well as being the candidate, the reaction to that and to some of the things he's done as governor. I mean, this fetal heartbeat bill that was just signed, people are pretty appalled by the fact that he signed what is, I think, the most restrictive anti-abortion bill in the country.
Now, listen to what this woman is saying. A woman who has been tied to anti-gay rhetoric, anti-gay stuff, and says, oh, she was hacked, and she's still on network television. Joy Reid. Saying that protecting innocent life is bad, that it's extreme. I don't know if there are two Americas, there are three Americas, but how in the world, when you start talking about protecting the life of the unborn, can you say that's extreme? And yet you'll hear Stacey Abrams go on and on about it. You have Melissa Alano saying she uses the Bible to promote abortions. That's what we didn't get a chance to talk about that last week. Now, again, regardless of your views on the issue, these folks are going way too far.
And so you have some folks that are talking boycott and saying that Hollywood should boycott the state of Georgia, that films, we know The Walking Dead is shot down. There are lots of television programs and movies are shot in Georgia and Atlanta. What do you make of these calls to boycott the state of Georgia?
I think it's a call to action and a call to attention. I do not actually support a boycott of our state. I think you re-victimize women, in particular when you take away the jobs that have come to the state. However, I think it's very short-sighted of our business community and our political leadership to not recognize that these jobs can go elsewhere. Georgia grew its film industry on the backs of the shutdown of the tax credit in Michigan and North Carolina. Those tax credits are still available if those governors, now Democrats, refund those credits. And we've already seen governors across the country say, you can bring your jobs here. I think Georgia has to realize that while we are enjoying an extraordinary boom in the film industry, there's nothing that says it has to stay here. And we have to be a state that is not only friendly to business, we've got to be friendly to the women who work in these businesses. You should not have to worry about your ability to control your bodily autonomy because of the governor has pushed such an abominable and evil bill that is so restrictive.
The bill she's talking about is the fetal heartbeat bill. Is there anyone listening that would agree with her statement concerning the fetal heartbeat bill? And not to get too preachy, too sermony here at KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning, but men and women control their bodies all the time. You control what you eat. Well, some of us. You control what you take into your bodies, whether you smoke or you don't. You control who you have interactions with, relationships with in your bodies, men and women. the ability to do this intrusive, invasive procedure when you have a heartbeat going. How can anyone justify this? But just like somebody selling themselves, here you have one of the leading figures of the National Democratic Party saying that you need to sell yourself for the 30 pieces of silver because it's more important for the film industry to be there to make money than it is to protect people. How many of us, and I know there are several of you listening, that if you had to pick between the money and your integrity, between your family and the integrity, you pick your family. You pick the children. Christ tells us, bring me the children. Right? How many of the people that you know could have sold themselves out, could have done other things, but choose what they do and where they live because it's better for their family? And yet Stacey Abrams, again, mouthing off and calling this an evil bill. Tell me, Miss Abrams, what is evil about protecting people, children that can't be protected?
Have to worry about your ability to control your bodily autonomy because the governor has pushed such an abominable and evil.
Again, the heartbeat bill is abominable and evil. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I guess we should call this segment, Thank Goodness We Live in Idaho.
Bill that is so restrictive. It's not only bad for morality and our humanity, it's bad for business.
Yeah, and it's
right. It's bad for business because gosh knows we need to make sure that everything is good for business and the almighty dollar rules all of us. Well, it doesn't rule people of faith. It doesn't rule people of integrity. And by the way, here you have Governor Pete Buttigieg going after Mike Pence because Mike Pence does not agree with Buttigieg. Mike Pence does not agree with Buttigieg's lifestyle. So Buttigieg calls out the creator. Do we have this? Let's take a listen to it now with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
I can tell you that if me being gay was a choice, it was a choice that was made far, far above my pay grade. And that's the thing I wish the Mike Pences of the world would understand. That if you got a problem with who I am, your problem is not with me. Your quarrel, sir, is with my Creator.
There we have it. Don't blame me, blame God. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And don't forget your chance to win Kevin Miller's cash. Listen at 6 a.m., 8 a.m., and 3 p.m. weekdays for your chance to win up to $5,000. Details on at KIDOTalkRadio.com. So, a couple other stories that we are following, but I have to go back to Mayor Pete. Everybody's going after Mayor Pete. He's doing well. Buttigieg, whatever you want to call him, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. And Buttigieg is in trouble because he happens to be white. Now, he is gay. He is married to a guy. He is somebody that could be transformational. That's what the libs are calling him. But a lot of folks on the other side of the aisle that support minority candidates have an issue with Mayor Pete because, well, Mayor Pete happens to be white.
Convention on Friday, but you'd be forgiven if you still don't know much about the policy ideas of candidates like Senators Harris, Warren, or Gillibrand. It may be because the media has for the last several weeks spent most of its time fixating on some of the men running for president. 2020 coverage has to a large extent been focused on Beto, Biden, and Bernie.
Well, and again, it's so funny, and we are at a dangerous point in American history where we're vilifying people because of their gender. Now, they're going to say that Beto, Bernie, and Biden are all men. They're all white men, so they should be disqualified. To me, that's racism. Is it not? We'll get more to that in a minute. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. We have a national media group just advocating discrimination, and we'll get to them in a minute. Good morning, Dave. So back to this clip where we have people going after, well, the media. Well, let me just share it with you.
The trio Washington Post columnist Margaret Sullivan calls the B-Boys. She writes, quote, "We hear a lot about the B-Boys in polling, in fundraising, in media ardor. They begin to seem inevitable, invincible. It's early, of course, but right now these three almost seem to have the whole thing sewn up. With a record number of women running for president, why are the men getting all the attention? The fixation of the media." Let me read a little piece of this Washington Post article. The rise of Bernie, Beto, Biden. The rise of Senator Bernie Sanders, ex-Congressman Beto O'Rourke, and former Vice President Joe Biden in a field of historic diversity has caused dismay among some Democrats, particularly African Americans and women, hoping for a mold-breaking nominee who reflects the changing face of the party and the country. I think that sort of sums it up.
Well, it's Beto, Biden, and Buttigieg. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's been kissing his butt, too. And it's amazing to me. Look, it's because, let's be candid, most of the reporters are white. And they're looking for a white guy who makes them feel good about themselves. I mean, some of these people, look, Bernie and Biden, it makes a lot.
Again, why MSNBC allows this show on television, I don't know. But again, another reason to thank the Lord that we live in Idaho and we don't have to deal with such silly nonsense. Kevin Miller, good morning.